What is going on, World Mobile Nation? Welcome back to the Dapp Central YouTube channel. My name is Fareed, and in today's video, I've got a laundry list of updates here surrounding the development around this project. Now, if it's your first time hearing about World Mobile, they're going to be a decentralized network building on Cardano, aiming to connect the unconnected through a sharing economy. Now, once per month, they have what they call their community update, which is a Twitter space held on Twitter. As a part of this latest update, we heard from Mickey Watkins, their CEO, Alan Omnett, James Tagg, Antonio Hernandez, and Gregory Gottlieb. That said, what I want to do is briefly touch on the highlights of this particular AMA, and then I'm going to turn you guys over to actually listen to it for yourselves. Now, before I jump into that, if you guys want to support myself here on the channel, or if you want to support me on the channel, then consider delegating with the official Dapp Central stake pool. Throughout the month of March, all the way through May, I'll be giving away the Meld and Genius Yield tokens to the delegators of the stake pool. So jumping into the topics and highlights that were discussed as a part of this Twitter space, they kicked things off with an introduction of the team members. Following that, they talked about the Satoshi Roundtable, which was an event that just took place in Saudi Arabia, in which Mickey Watkins was able to attend. Now, he was able to meet with Charles Hoskinson, and then he was also able to network with future prospects for the World Mobile project. After that, they talked about World Mobile Congress, or Mobile World Congress, which recently just took place in Barcelona, in which they were able to meet with other mobile businesses as well as share the World Mobile vision. After that, they briefly touched on their roadmap and some of their goals for 2023. And then following that, they talked about their Zanzibar rollout. Now, if you guys are not familiar, Zanzibar is going to be the first region in which we're going to see the actual network rolling out. Now, in the past 2 weeks, we've seen the first B2C customers as well as the first B2B customers coming online. They also talked about the fact that they're now getting initial feedback and that it has been positive surrounding both of these different types of rollout. Moving forward, they'll be listening to the community and making iterative updates. After that, we heard a little bit more about their AirNodes, and if you guys are not familiar, they're now going to be at 270, which have officially been installed in the Zanzibar region. They're also going to be rolling out in Paje and Nungwe, which are going to be their next targets, again, in the Zanzibar region. If you guys are not familiar with either of these two areas, they're going to be densely populated tourist areas. On top of that, we're now going to officially have a way to actually see the AirNode revenue for the top 5 AirNodes on WMT scan. So this was quite a big update here. Again, really kind of showing that this sharing economy is going to be functional, and we can now get an idea as to how much revenue will be earned by AirNode operators running their AirNodes. After that, they talked about their testnet, their mainnet, and their Aya Whitepaper. If you guys are not familiar, Aya is going to be a sidechain being built using the Cosmos SDK in tandem with Tendermint, and that's going to basically be functioning for the EarthNode operators. That said, that is currently on the testnet with more than 191 operators in their Discord and more than 50 EarthNodes actually running on the testnet. As a reminder, you guys can go ahead and actually sign up to go ahead and get access to this testnet if you currently hold one of the actual EarthNode NFTs. Now, the team also stated that they're actively working on scaling the EarthNode network, and right now they're also working on stake injection. Now, if you're not familiar with what stake injection is, Antonio basically put it this way. This is going to be a way of basically reflecting any of the stake made on the Cardano Layer 1 blockchain into the Aya sidechain. So anything that's staked in terms of WMT should be reflected accurately on the sidechain, and that's what they're actively working on. Again, that's going to be called stake injection. Very lastly, Antonio mentioned the fact that the minimum specs, or the minimum requirements, or the minimum hardware requirements, I should say, to run an EarthNode will remain the same, with a slight increase in the amount of disk space needed. So a lot of really good news there. After that, they pivoted the conversation into into AirNode sales, or Operation AirNode. Now, as a part of this, they confirmed that the website and user interface for OPAN is ready to be released, and that the website will be flexible and reusable for additional Earth node sales, or additional node sales, I should say. It's going to be initially rolled out for AirNodes, but you can imagine that as we get Ether nodes and other nodes that come out in the future, that they'll be able to reuse this existing platform in order to make those sales. Now, after OPAN, they talked about their global app. And so if you guys are not aware, they finally released their first app within the Zanzibar region. Now, that is going to be specific for Zanzibar. On the heels of that, they've now released, or they are planning to release, I should say, their global application, which will be available to everyone regardless of their region. Now, there's going to be 3 key features coming with the global app. Number 1 is going to be an integrated Cardano wallet. Number 2 is going to be a fiat on-ramp and off-ramp, allowing users to directly come into the network without having to go through a centralized exchange or another third party. And then very lastly, they're going to be launching a marketplace within the global app, which will provide value-added services, such as connecting users to Airbnb, Amazon, and Apple. Very lastly, they did confirm that their wallet integration will be tied to a DID, or a digital identity, and that the app will be rolled out in phases due to regulations, which are specific to the fiat on and off ramp, as well as their wallet. Now, after talking about that, they dove into the global deployment and the fact that they recently talked about an Asian country, which they will be rolling out to. So we finally now know exactly where that is going to be. So without any further ado, the World Mobile team confirmed that they will be rolling out in Pakistan by the end of this quarter. So they're going to be starting that process there and expanding from Africa to the US to now an Asian country. They've also announced a partnership with UCSD, which stands for the University of California in San Diego, and they're going to be partnering with them in order to build and test their tooling with the university. Very lastly, they confirmed that the Zanzibar region as well as US are their current main priorities, and that they don't currently have any plans right now for rolling out in the Europe or UK regions. In closing, they talked a little bit about their Aerostats. And what we heard here was that the team is now finalizing the release of their Aerostats in Zanzibar. And there have been many questions here, especially on my personal videos here down in the comment section below, surrounding the legal process. They did confirm that they are getting very close. However, they don't want to give any specific dates just yet, given that the community normally kind of holds their feet to the fire. Now, as we get that actual announcement, I'll be releasing an additional video because I do know that that's an area of concern for a lot of members, but the team did reassure the community that they are making progress. After that, they talked about the fact that they now have the first World Mobile owned Aerostat that has been manufactured. We did see a preview or a dry run of another Aerostat being flown, I believe, in the Saudi Arabia region. However, keep in mind that that was not actually owned by the World Mobile project. This is going to be the first one actually being manufactured and owned by the World Mobile team, and it is now being tested, and it already has been in the air and connected with a payload in the New Hampshire area. And so they were able to connect this to an AirNode and the World Mobile application being used in the Zanzibar region. They basically migrated that or moved that over here into the US and actually implemented that to make sure that they had a working proof of concept. So everything was successful. They're able to make a phone call using that network again being deployed here in the US. This again just goes to prove that their cookie cutter approach will be working and should be functional moving forward. They do also plan on applying the same cookie cutter model to the Pakistan rollout. Now, in closing here of the Aerostat updates, they did talk about the fact that the World Mobile team is now in talks or negotiation surrounding the use of manned airships to promote and maintain availability. With that said, the manned airships will be able to be quickly deployed for filling gaps in the network. Now, very lastly, they did talk about an ongoing helium shortage impacting Aerostats. After all of those topics, they switched gears and they jumped into their community Q&A, in which we had some questions from the community surrounding the cost of AirNodes, the limit of AirNode purchases, unclaimed Earth node NFTs, as well as digital ID integration, and then very lastly, the Starlink implementation being done by Elon Musk and what the World Mobile team's thoughts were surrounding that. Now, everything that I've mentioned, again, will be coming up here as a part of the Twitter Space recap that I'm going to be playing. Make sure to go ahead and use the timestamps down below if you guys have any questions or if you want to jump over into a specific part of the conversation. Now, last but not least, if you guys appreciate this kind of content, then make sure to tap that like button. If it's your first time stopping by the channel and you want more WMT content, then make sure to check out my playlist and make sure to subscribe. And if you guys have any questions for me surrounding this protocol or Cardano, then leave a comment down below. That said, I'm going to turn you guys over into the AMA recording, and I hope that you guys enjoy.
Thank you all for being here. It's lovely to see you. It's been a little while since we've had a Spaces, but we're back. We're here. We're here to take all your questions and give you an update on where we are. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Josie. I wear quite a few hats here at World Mobile, but mainly I just make sure that all of these guys are behaving themselves and do what they're supposed to be doing. I'm going to hand over to Mickey and the rest of the team to introduce themselves. Mickey, after you.
Hello everybody, I am Mickey Watkins, CEO and founder of World Mobile. I think a lot of you know me. If you don't know me, I am extremely passionate about connecting people and building what I believe will be the world's biggest sharing economy, World Mobile.
Thanks, Mickey. James?
Hi, yeah, I'm James Tagg. I'm Chief Architect and a founder. I do all manner of technical things to build radios and core networks.
Thank you so much, James. Nick? No, I'm not. I'm no preferential treatment on the twins here. It's just that you were first on the screen.
Thank you, Josie. Hey, everybody. I'm Nick Soper. I'm one of the co-founders, and I'm looking after all things support and design. Over to you.
Thanks, Nick. Let's go over to Andy.
Yeah, I thought so. Hey, everybody, it's Andrew. How are you? Thank you for taking your personal time out and listening to us talk about World Mobile. I'm also one of the co-founders, been at this since the very beginning. I've been in charge of country operations because I was living in Tanzania for over a decade, and that's kind of where and why we've started out this journey. But as time goes on, I've gotten involved with many other things. So if you're in the community, you want to ask any questions, I'm always there and watching. So please tag me if you want to learn more. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Andy. Gregory, over to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gregory Gottlieb. I'm the head of Aerostat activities at World Mobile. And anything about helium, not the company, anything about tethers, balloons, whoops, that's going to cost me €1, or lighter than air in general, I'm the go-to guy. My background has been in lighter than air since 1990. So for those who haven't heard me speak before, I know nothing about telecoms, but a lot about aerostats and lighter than air vehicles.
Okay, so as I said before, it's a little while since we've all been together to speak like this. We didn't have a Spaces back in February, and it seems crazy that the last time we were all together was Jan, and an awful lot has happened since then. Mickey's been here, there, and everywhere. All over the world, including the Satoshi Roundtable, which was in February but feels like forever ago. Mickey, can you tell us a little bit more about what the event was, who was there, what happened? Give us a bit of a goss from the event.
It was a really good event. I don't think I've been to such an impactful event before. Maybe all of the other events in terms of business productivity did not equal this one event. We sat with some legends from the OGs, OGs from the space, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and different L1s. I met with Charles and had dinner whilst we were there and talked about some business. And yeah, we met some really cool people, some of the godfathers of cryptocurrency and cryptography.
And one of the people that you met there, I believe, led on to one of the podcasts that we've covered over the past few weeks. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
That was Scott. So Zach was with us at the AMA, and I was having a meeting, and I walked past the dining hall, which is, of course, where Zach was hanging out, and looking for his whistle, not for food. And he was sitting with Scott, and he said, come over. So I spoke for 5 minutes, and he said, look, I've just been blown away by what you guys are doing. Let's get immediately on a podcast as soon as you get back, and I'd love to put this out there for my audience and the wider community to listen to. So we did that and formed a fantastic relationship and what looks like a blooming friendship for sure. He's a cool guy.
It's really exciting, and it was a great podcast. I think that there was a lot of really important information shared there, and it was really nice to see some new members of the community off the back of that as well.
And then I landed immediately afterwards, flew out, and then landed in March to meet you and the rest of the team for MWC, right?
That's exactly right. So that was our February. We had a really, really beneficial time at MWC. We were invited there by the GSMA as part of the Foundry project, and quite a few of us here on the spaces were there. Who's got a highlight that they'd like to share from it, or perhaps we can talk about the objective, why we were there, what we were demonstrating as part of the Foundry project?
Yes, okay, so we, as everybody knows, we are leading and pioneering the way for Aerostat and for aerial-based networks, or aerial and ground-based networks. So we were there, we were invited by the GSMA Foundry to show what we're doing, show the innovation we're bringing into the space. We met a lot of people. I think Gregory's going to take you through some of the people that we met and the interest that we had there. And the outcome was really fantastic. There was some great press that really picked up on what we were doing, and great connections and memberships to important players that have all got together in the industry to change the way that the telecom works, to really mix it up. And, there's a lot of talk about LEOs there. Every other company seemed to be a low Earth orbit satellite, but by the end of it, I think we had more people around us at the official GSMA stage than anybody else did, with regular tours coming in. And Josie, you did a fantastic job to manage all of that. Literally 20, 30 people coming to the stand to talk about Aerostats and see the tether and talk about the progress that we're making and the ultimate difference that World Mobile can make. And it's great. We're leading the space, and GSMA is the strongest. So for them to have backed us up, supported us, and endorsed us is a wonderful achievement.
And I don't think we can talk about MWC without talking about our mini Aerostat that we had there, which was sort of the crowning glory on the top of the stand. It was really nice to have that there so people could really see how the Aerostat will look, and to be able to have that there when Gregory was explaining how all of the technology works was really beneficial. I mean, James, you've been going to MWC for many, many years. Can you explain to people in the community who might not already know quite how important an event it is in the telco calendar?
Well, there's really, I mean, it's enormous, right? I think it's probably the largest show and probably about 90,000 people go. It's all industry, so there's no consumers, not like CES, which has consumers as well, and just a lot of business done. There's really only one show that has it to go to, and that's the show. It's about 26 years old, I think. No.
So yeah, it really is the sort of the key event in the telco calendar, and when it comes to people that we met there, I know some of these are under NDA and we can't really go into any details, which is a shame because there were some really exciting meetings that we'd love to shout about. But Gregory, you were responsible for, along with Magnus too, leading the What's Hot tour where the GSMA were coming round, and I think this is something we shared on our on Twitter at the time as well. But what was it that you were covering in that talk? It'd be really interesting to understand a little bit more of what you were explaining there.
Well, I mean, for me, first of all, it was my first ever World Mobile Congress Mobile World Congress, because telecoms is not my background, and it was absolutely fascinating to see the range and breadth of participants in the event. And these groups were brought to the stand where we were to hear about World Mobile. And so Magnus and I, between us, gave a little talk into a microphone. All of the attendees in the group had earpieces, and I believe there were some translations going on as well. And we didn't know exactly who was in the group each time, but we were able to tell them basically the story of World Mobile, the business case, the technology involved. I actually had to learn a little bit about antennas, so I knew what I was talking about, which was a bit scary. Obviously the Aerostat bit I could manage. We also had a piece of real Aerostat tether that we'd snipped off a roll of Aerostat tether and opened up so people could see the optical fiber, the power, the strength member, and the environmental covering. And people were really impressed to see a real piece of tether, because it's not much bigger than a sort of 13 amp cable, to be honest. But when you open it up, you can see the components inside and the complexity of the technology, and that would get handed around the group. And we talked to them about our aspirations in the US, in Africa, and elsewhere, and how we can make an impact on people's lives, not just rolling out a network that will generate revenue, which is an important part of what we're doing, but the fact that it's something that will change people's lives. That's what the audience seemed most interested in learning about. And as a result of those talks that we gave, a number of the people who'd been around in the groups came back to us afterwards and exchanged business cards and indicated an interest in learning more about what we were doing.
Seeing that interest from that level, these people coming from the ministerial lounges and coming down to see the Aerostat and having those conversations was definitely a highlight for me, for sure. And of course there was loads of press there as well. We spoke to quite a few publications, which was really exciting. And also we were there in the background for the King's visit, weren't we?
Yes, they put that on Spanish TV as well. I had actually neighbours and friends telling me, we saw on the news the Aerostat. It's much smaller than we thought. And I had to explain, actually, this Aerostat was a model Aerostat. Although this one could fly. It was designed to fly. Just not up to, 2,000 feet kind of thing. But it was some fantastic PR and of course, a lot of familiar faces, right? Regulators that we know from around the world. And it inspires confidence when we're being endorsed by the GSMA Foundry. So overall, fantastic event, definitely worth not sleeping for and arriving into Barcelona with snow on the mountains.
Yeah, I certainly wasn't expecting snow in Barcelona when I packed for that one, but there you go. Excuse me. I think we always seem to have colds on this Spaces. What's going on? Okay, and the other thing that was really interesting, another thing that was interesting about the Congress, which I think we're going to come on to later, was Gregory speaking with the alliance there, but we'll come on to that later when we speak about the Aerostat. Okay, we're still having a few problems with some of the team connecting, so please do excuse us while we sort of try and sort that out, but we will continue and move on. The next section of the Spaces, we want to talk about where we are in the roadmap, how that's going. We've seen things that have been said in the community, your guys, what you're thinking, and we understand that there are questions in around the roadmap and where we are with that. So as Alan's not here, Mickey, I'm going to throw this one over to you. How's progress going with our milestones as we move out of Q1 and towards Q2?
We're definitely going to meet a lot of the milestones that we put ourselves for Q1. I know that there's been some murmurs and some talks. I know that 50's been speaking to some people in the community, and there's been some concerns about not reaching some of the Q1 goals. These are put out there for us to be able to aim to reach, right? We're a tech company, we're a telecom company, we're a blockchain company. We're 100 members of staff doing a job of 1,000 members of staff. So some of them will be met. If you remember at the end of Q4 2022, the team really were put to work and dedicated a lot of time to make sure that they met them. Some of them won't be met, but the ones that won't be met, there'll be a very good reason. For example, the white paper that's due to be released for the mainnet will give an explanation of when the mainnet is actually coming, and it will have a true understanding of where we're going. We've listened hard. This first 3 months have been our heads just down working. We haven't been as loud as we normally are. We haven't been hyping anything. We've just been building. So I'm very confident that people will be happy by the end of this Q1. And with anything that we've missed, there will be a good understanding to why we've missed it and a good explanation to how we're going to correct that and in which timeframes.
Absolutely, and I think it is the case that their objectives that we're working on at a business level, and some things change as they go, but absolutely those milestones are there to be met, and we're absolutely committed to doing so. And I believe Alan might be here, so let me try and add him in again.
Maybe you do need to kick some people off, Josie. maybe Nick and Andy just for now.
I think Alan's
Finally.
here. Here he is. Hello.
There's an Android problem.
Alan, thank you
It's
for
like
joining us.
connecting the unconnected, isn't it? It's like speaking the unspoken. It's like
spacing the unspaced.
I tell you.
You're here just in time to talk about the roadmap.
I have to give Elon a call, sort this out.
Just don't let him take any of our dev team. We need them all.
Crazy. Well, I had to move
So
to
Alan,
an iPhone to make it work anyway. But I'm sure you all know that. So, yes, any questions for me? Sorry, I missed that. What's the latest?
We were just speaking through the roadmap, where we are with our objectives for Q1, and now we're moving towards Q2, and talking about how we've got that milestone-based approach, which ones we're working towards, and how we're tracking with all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we probably had the Twitter Spaces in December where it was, coming to the end of the quarter, and the pressure's on, and we're trying to achieve incredible things in a short space of time. We're coming up to the end of Q1, and we've set ourselves some mighty goals. I think Mickey said, we're going to achieve many of the goals, and we've definitely made huge progress on the rest of the goals. So, the product roadmap, where we try and set out what it is we want to achieve and when we want to achieve it by. But I think, the community, they do hold us to the second. Yeah, it's you said you're going to do this, and it's fair. We've set out to do it, and we're answerable to the community and to the people who have committed to the projects. But one thing's for sure, we're fully committed to keep breaking the latest innovations and being the best. And sometimes that might take a little bit longer. What we're trying to do on Cardano is something that nobody's done before with the sidechain. Putting on 1,000 nodes, working with the Cosmos ecosystem, similar thing. Nobody's done this before. 120, 150 nodes maybe, but 1,000 nodes is another story. So here we are. We're aiming to deliver, and we'll just communicate with any changes to the roadmap as we go.
And with no other global telco conferences, we shouldn't miss another month on these, and we'll be providing these regular monthly updates as we go. Mike, could we have the next slide, please? Okay, so what's been going on in Zanzibar is really quite exciting. I think when we all got together at the end of January, we were excited to announce that we had our first B2B customers on board. We've now gone a stage further. We've got the B2C customers. We've got our first customers on the ground who are using the app, who are topping up and using the network. So it's a really huge and exciting time. Can we talk a little bit more about how that's been achieved? Mickey, Alan, Andy, a little bit more about how the app's been deployed and how that's rolling out across Zanzibar now.
Yeah, who wants to take it? I mean, we're rolling out. The mobile app is the reception that we've heard and the sentiment is very positive. I think with any new way of doing things, there's listening to the customer and improving the process is really important. So we're making adjustments to any sort of user onboard or experience. And it's, I think we're in a good position. A lot of people have already been onboarded using the network. I think there's a lot more people that would like to use the network, that we're addressing any kind of user interface issues. So we're doing iterative updates to make that really seamless. We initially did a sort of zoned rollout, so starting off in a small area. And we've got an activation team who are continually going out and educating customers with the change from how it used to work to using the mobile app. It's looking good. I think we're always learning and improving. So yeah, that's the sort of general update.
And for us as it's always been very important to get the sharing economy right, because that is the key to the growth of World Mobile, right? If someone puts down an AirNode or someone remotely buys an AirNode, you've got to first of all have users to use that AirNode. You've got to make sure that sharing economy is working right. And I'm very proud because actually it looks like it is. And there'll be more on that later on about where we're rolling out and how we're copying and pasting the model that I've always talked about. And when we say cookie cutter, for the environment like Zanzibar, replica environments around the world can actually take exactly the same model, clone up a different core, set a new application language, and a whole country's online wherever it wants to work. So the B2C rollout's gone fantastic, and Zanzibar, I'm forever thankful for the support that the Republic has shown us. And it's been a very forgiving environment. The people on the ground have really helped us to get to where we are. And it's exciting to be here today, actually selling data to them.
Absolutely. And on that point, I know that we released a video where Joe, who heads up our UX UI team, spoke through how that process works. But for anybody that missed that, Alan, could you talk through the journey of how our customers pay, how they get on and how they use their data? Just a sort of high-level explanation of how that works.
So the users initially get a prompt to download a mobile app, which they then download the app using a free amount of Wi-Fi or data to access it. There's a straightforward registration process to create a digital ID, which is self-sovereign, or if they choose to, then they can have a custodial account. So quite a simple process to download and install the wallet. They are then able to make a payment. I mean, one of the most popular ways to make payments in Zanzibar is with mobile payments. So as part of that registration and then top-up process, they can easily transfer some mobile money across to the app. Once that is received, they can then select from different packages. The packages are designed to really address the key issues of affordability and connectivity. So one of the criticisms that there has been in Tanzania is about how mobile operators will, give you a very short time span of usage. So we've enabled bundles which give people a very long time if needed, 90 days to use their data. So very positive feedback on that. But we do also still enable a short sort of free bundle if people are, want to try it out and test out the service.
Thanks, Alan. And in addition to the areas in which they can download that via the captive portal, they also the app's now available on the Play Store for people to download in country. I know that we can't get it everywhere right now because it is country restricted, but it is really exciting to be able to see that there and see people downloading it from the store. Do we want to touch on value-added services here? Because I know we're going to talk about the global app shortly, but that is something that...
Yeah, I think we'll leave it for the global app because it's obviously available for people across the world. So yeah, we can talk about it then.
Sounds good to me. Okay, let's move on to AirNodes. So Andy, maybe you'd like to jump in here and talk about the number of AirNodes we now have in Zanzibar, what our next targets are, and we've got some in a new location. I'll let you explain this one.
Sure. Well, Mickey and Alan explained, the concept behind how we're rolling out the AirNodes. So we've got 270 out in Zanzibar today, which is great. But what's quite exciting is we've got a couple of next batches. We're going to be focusing on Paje and an area called Nungwe. So Paje is on the east side of the island and Nungwe is up in the north. It's a totally different scenario to the Stone Town and the spice farms and the islands that we've been focusing on so far. They're both very popular and densely populated tourist areas. And we've actually had a trial AirNode up in Paje for a long time, but we're going to be expanding the network there and opening up business to home, business to business, and then all the kite surfers and tourists along the beach. So it's going to be opening up a whole new market for us and World Mobile.
Thanks so much, Andy. And we have quite an exciting announcement. Mickey, I'm going to give this one to you. What do we have to share about this, which is really quite exciting?
Well, I think it's on live as of around 30 minutes ago, but if you check WMT scan, you'll see some of the nodes that are performing out there that have been federated and actually in the sharing economy generating revenue. So that's super exciting because the AirNodes are... That was amazing. The AirNodes are the source of the income coming in, right? That's what captures the user. The user then pays to come online, and that's what feeds into the AirNodes, the first funnel. So they have to work. That sharing economy is key to everything. Once they've entered that funnel, they then hit the Earth nodes. And then the profits are divided. We're not quite ready to tell everybody the division. You get a rough idea there. Because the number next to the dollar value next to the AirNode is what the actual host is earning. So, there's a speculation to happen still in the community, but in the next few weeks, few months, as we're sure that we've done this right, then absolutely all those stats will be live. So that's a very exciting moment for me as well. And congratulations to the whole team for getting the sharing economy working and actually revenue running to hosts.
Absolutely, it really is an exciting time, and to be able to see that, you guys can go in and check in on that at WMT scan at any point, and also I think Zach shared a post about that on our Twitter too. So yeah, an exciting day, and more of that to come for sure as we roll out and start to copy and paste into different countries, which I think
this particular model, I think we're going on to different countries on the next section.
I think that might be the case. Oh, actually, I think we're going to take a little diversion here. Antonio, are you with us? Is your tech working?
I rescue. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yes.
Yeah, I rescued an old iPhone from a box and had to charge it and then install Twitter. I don't remember the Apple Store password. So it was an adventure just to get to speak here.
The things that we do, hey, well, I'm really pleased that you're here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No worries.
And there are a few things that we want to cover in this section. Antonio, you always get the fun bits. So we've had lots of questions in from the community around the blockchain side of things. So Testnet, the white paper that's coming, and of course Mainnet and where we are with that. there's been a lot going on and a lot of work's being done. But Antonio, perhaps you can give us an overview of where we are and what's been going on since we last spoke at the end of January.
Sure thing. So where we are, last time I checked a couple of hours ago, we have 191 participants in the public testnet Discord channel. From those, we have 152 different validators, meaning nodes that have work in the testnet, and we have some operators that represent groups holding several Earth nodes, some participants that belongs to teams. So that's why the number of participants in the channel don't match with the number of nodes, but that's fine. And there's been a lot of activity and learning happening, and that was the goal of the testnet, right? We wanted to expose all the operators to this new technology that they were not used to, being from Cardano and being on Cosmos SDK now. So yeah, we wanted them to have that experience, to improve the installation procedure, etc., and mainly to have all the operators familiar with the new tooling that we are providing them, right? So that's where we are. What have we been working on, and what's going on right now? Huge lot of things. So let me see if I remember everything that I can update you on.
No pressure.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's not only on the blockchain stuff; it's everywhere. But you know, I'm the software guy, so I have to update on everything. So what's going on in the blockchain side of things? So we're working on the scalability of the consensus protocol, and we have been looking at two ways to solve that scalability issue. We have one model, which is creating a sidechain of sidechains, leveraging the interblockchain protocol that Cosmos SDK have available. And that's a technical solution that we are very excited about, but it doesn't come without complexity. So we are working also in parallel in providing a better scalable consensus protocol that can work in the Cosmos SDK. And both solutions are compatible, right? So we can compose both solutions to achieve even higher scalability. We're working collaborative with leading Cardano engineers and in IO as well, with IO as well, and also some leading engineers in the consensus space. And that's all I can say now without breaking any NDAs.
But there's exciting workshops going on and a lot of work going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, actually, and that's only the consensus, right? So we're working also in the architecture of the smart contracts needed to translate the stake in Cardano to the delegation in the AYA chain, right? The AYA being the name that we have for our chain. So we call this design, it's very excited because there's no breaching of anything happening, but we call this design stake injection. So actually, the stake happening in the layer 1 in Cardano is being reflected into the sidechain or the layer 2 chain or the mix of both that we have and we are building, right? So that's very, very, very exciting for the guys that they're working on it, because it's a very novel solution. Also, what else? So as I mentioned just now, this is Cardano is the layer of trust, where it's where the sidechain derives the trust from, and I hope that the fat around us using the Cosmos SDK is already over. But just in case, the AYA chain is designed to work with Cardano as the trust and financial settlement layer. The design also includes the capability to have a financial settlement layer in other layer 1 chains. But let me remind you, I have mentioned not only financial settlement, but also trust, and that's on Cardano, right? So I hope that once and for all, we can remove the fat of World Mobile leaving Cardano, because that's not the case. We're using just the SDK. And I don't know if that was clear enough, because even if I mentioned that last time, there was still some conversation going on about that. What else? Hope I don't forget anything, or the guys will kill me. Yeah.
So with that explanation, where does that leave us in terms of the specs that we've already published for ENOs? Is that something that you can expand on?
The minimum specs on the box needed to run the chain, right? You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So far, the specs have not increased. Yeah. The solution is very efficient, but I anticipate that at least this space, once we start introducing more data into the chain, it will be required to increase the disk space. But as for the other specs, of course, we are talking the very, very bare minimum. They haven't been modified so far, so that's good. Although this is not, and this is my trademark, this is not a promise, right? But so far so good. What else? Yeah, we've been working as well to develop a new way to make the connection between the chains, right? Because the solution proposed by IOG on the sidechains paper is not applicable to our use case. We are a huge use case where we have 1,000 node operators, and there's some tweaking needed to happen there. So we are working on that improvement as well. And I can give you some details on how it's working, but I would ask you to wait for more details until we publish the paper in the next few days. Hopefully you will have it with you, and you will be asking me a lot of questions about what you have read in the paper. So how the connection is working very broadly is that we are there will be a committee in the section that we will renew every epoch, and the epochs in Aya are a multiple of the epochs in Cardano. So it's connected to those epochs, but it doesn't need to be 101. It could be a multiplier, like three epochs in Cardano, 1 epoch in Aya. Still to be decided, but it will be a multiplier. And we are handling the validator with this committee. We are handling the validator access to the network. We are observing and approving the stake injection that I mentioned before. Basically, we are basically the subset of validators that are in the committee. Every epoch is changing, but they are the ones proving that anything going to Cardano is true from the sidechain to Cardano, and that anything coming from Cardano to the sidechain is actually there and it's real, right? So as I said, the committee selection is happening randomly in a Cardano smart contract, and a new committee is selected every Aya epoch, right? And hopefully it was not too technical for most of you guys, but technical enough for the ones that are expecting some details. I think that I mentioned everything that I wanted to mention. So yeah.
Antonio,
any other questions?
There's a question. Thank you so much for the overview there, and I think that much more once the paper's released, which will be in Q1, so not long to go. There'll be time to take more questions on that too. I think there are a couple of questions from Telegram that have been highlighted here. But perhaps we can go back to those at the end, and anybody who's here can.
No, people are asking if we are replacing Tendermint, Antonio. The answer to that is no. We're not replacing Tendermint. We're just adding potentially a new consensus.
Actually, we're not replacing Tendermint in the sense that Tendermint is usable for any other project. We are introducing a new consensus that we want to use because it's a little bit more scalable and applicable to our use case, right? So we're not trying to replace Tendermint, but we are trying to use a more scalable consensus inside the Cosmos SDK.
I think that without hyping anything too much, the modeling that we've seen is quite incredible for this consensus. So now it's about putting it into production and showing that it's the modeling is correct. But we're very, very excited about this. It's taken some time, but we think we found something that nobody else has done in the space yet, so far.
Actually, it's one of the few times that I've seen our developers really excited about something. So yeah, I'm very hyped about that new consensus.
There'll be more on that with Whitepaper. So the IO Whitepaper is due to be released before the 31st or on the 31st of March. We're really pushing a push to make that happen. So when that comes out, there'll be a lot more talk and interaction with our EarthNode operators. You know, we've got 51 always kicking our ass as well, telling us we need this and they need this and they need, and you know, we are aware and we're definitely listening, and we definitely would love you guys and ladies to be involved much more. So after this white paper, there'll be more workshops and more regular things that we can work together to actually build this out.
Absolutely. And I think it's also interesting to note at this point about how much this is going to have an effect on other things that, excuse me, potentially are being expected or waited for, have been delayed slightly in terms of the rewards part 2. This is something that will fall back off the back of this, the paper that comes out at the end of the month. So lots of really exciting updates and news coming. Mickey, is there anything else you want to add to that? Or Antonio, Alan?
Yeah, whilst we're talking about Testnet, we're talking about blockchain. Also, something that I saw that came up in the chat from a guy called Josh C. He said, now that the co-founders' tokens are unlocked, you know, we need to watch out. So I would just like to tell the community right now, we're in this project like you're in this project. So the co-founders and the team have voluntarily chosen for the next 6 months at least to lock up our tokens and extend that. Because we want the project to work, and the objective here is to make sure that we build the biggest sharing economy the world's ever seen. So in 6 months' time, there'll be another update on the co-founders and the team tokens.
Absolutely. Mike, can we move on to the next slide, please? I think we're going to move on to talking a little bit more about the US and our new countries. Bear with me a second. Oh no, we're going to talk about OPAN. This is exciting. So we've got Nick here in Spaces today. Nick and Mickey and the wider team have been working really hard on Operation AirNode, launching AirNode sales, which is a key objective for us for this year. I know that there are lots of questions about this, and you know, there'll be time to ask any more at the end. But there are a few that we've picked up on already. So Mickey, Nick, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about how the AirNode sales is going, how the website development's coming, and where and when we can expect the first batch to be on sale.
Sure, and I just want to reiterate what I said before, actually. I speak for the co-founders and some of the team, okay, when I'm talking about the lockup, just to be precise, because I know the community will listen to this and they'll want to know that. With regards to OPAN, OPAN's amazing. It's moving forward as expected. In Zanzibar now, for that particular terrain, that particular model, this particular economic environment, we know which AirNodes, after a year of testing off-the-shelf hardware, combining units, we know which AirNodes that we can sell now. The team, Joe and Matt, are working very hard under the guidance of Nick and with support from James to finalize the matching engine. We have a pretty robust and good idea. It's been tested by quite a few people, and that will go into production very soon. People want to know when the first batch of AirNodes on sale will be. It will be soon, right? I know that word, I'm going to get punished for it by the community and by Mike as well, but it really will. But we've got to get it right. And until it's right, we can't launch anything. So it will be as quick as possible that we launch this. We've already got several thousands of people that are signed up and more sign-up lists from the advertisements at Fulham, for example, that are happening. And we're building that up with the marketing team. So when we're ready, we're truly ready. But Zanzibar is looking good, and we look like we know what we want to sell there. And USA is starting to look good with all the testing that's being done from the garage and now being deployed onto the fields. We'll have a very good idea of what works there. And there's some nice surprises that people will see as well.
I think one thing just to add there, Mickey, is on the reasons behind not rushing out and launching the OPAN. I think you can probably see a number of decentralized wireless players out there who sort of rush to market with models that don't make any sense, right? And what we're launching is something which has proper commercial viability. Yeah, exactly. I'm sure you've seen other people not achieve that, and that's where we're different, right? That's why you're here, is because you know that when we're deploying, it's something that's been thought about from a commercial basis, not purely as a sort of token distribution project. So the key thing is to understand, number one, the engine and the UX UI has been well refined and defined. In terms of the hardware itself, a lot of that also is tied into the spectrum that you may use. And that's an area that we've really focused on where we're going to be different. And also, that commercial viability of making sure that when somebody installs a node, it actually gets used. Yeah, there's no point in just plugging in the box and it just uses your electricity, especially in current environment. It's got to use some electricity and earn something from it. So something that we're still refining, and it will be available once we're able to share that with you.
One of the beautiful, well said, Alan, but one of the beautiful things that of starting and being born in Africa, where the regulation is really strict on crypto in some places, especially Tanzania, is that we have to think differently. We didn't just think about, okay, let's hand out a load of tokens to every node that goes up and reward people this way. We thought of it like, okay, this actually has to pay, right? This has to be an ROI on an investment. And we've always wanted to make sure that we get that back within a year and a half, 2 years maximum to every node owner. So if you look at the stats on WMT scan, actually it looks like a year and a half potentially to pay back. And this is without any value-added services yet on the network, right? This is just pure data consumption. So people rolling up to the node, connecting via the captive portal or via the mobile application and paying for data. So the next steps are the marketplace, and you're going to see that very soon in the global application, which we'll speak about during this call. But once the marketplace is there, then the revenue can exponentially grow. Banking the unbanked, insuring the uninsured. All these are all things that are capable of happening, possible of happening, if people have got cheap, fast, reliable internet to be connected to. Let alone Spotify, Netflix, Play Store, App Store, and the numerous other services of entertainment that we use. I mean, the internet is just the beginning. The data connection is just the beginning. So, again, we're super pumped to see these results just on data.
That's right, and I think what's really interesting about these the screenshots that have been shared about the sort of first look at the UX of how this will be looking is how flexible and scalable this is. So we'll be able to use this across lots of different types of nodes and territories. And Nick, maybe you can take some time to talk us through that in a little bit more detail.
Hey everybody. I just want to add, the design team and the development team, we've been working tirelessly to build a platform that can scale and deliver this matchmaking system that we've talked about, not only for the different kinds of AirNodes we're going to supply, but in the different territories we're going to roll out in. And I can't say enough how much work it is to create a system where somebody can sign up, buy an AirNode, or somebody can sign up that has a site to host an AirNode, and somebody else can sign up to install the AirNode, or somebody could do all three journeys to buy and host and install an AirNode. And the system we have is incredibly flexible, and we have a great user experience that is being developed and is going to be ready anytime soon.
I've heard the S word twice now. What I want to know is the fine for the S word bigger than the balloon word, Gregory, Mickey? I'll let you two work this one out between the two of you.
Let's make it the same.
Okay, that sounds fair to me.
It's a para jump from an airship.
Okay, let's move on. So it was mentioned a little bit earlier when we were speaking about the value-added services in terms of the app for customers in Zanzibar. But one of the big projects that we're working on this year and delivering in this quarter is the global app, which isn't going to be restricted to Tanzania and Zanzibar. It's going to be available for many more territories. So with that in mind, let's talk a little bit more about the global app. Mickey, do you want to take it away on this one? Talk about the features and the different parts of the app and how they all come together.
Absolutely. So the B2C app launched in Zanzibar has been a huge hit, but that's not cool because the rest of our community can't get their hands on what the application can do. So the application also ties in directly to the Earth nodes, to modules that are being built, like Push to Talk, for example. In the background is being built, and other messaging platforms and storage as a service. So all of those will be encompassed eventually inside the application. But the first version you're going to get is going to be pretty cool. There's going to be a marketplace in there. There's going to be a wallet in there. And of course, there's going to be Scan to Earn, which is our code name. Probably not the best marketing name, but the code name for the application that will eventually identify exactly where we should put nodes, exactly where connectivity is poor, and exactly what kind of connectivity is there. And then those earnings will be translated to loyalty points, and those loyalty points will then be able to use as service in the marketplace, or to buy vouchers, or to gift people or buy people vouchers and send it to them. So this is the beginning of the first interaction that everybody will have in a place where they can store their WMTs and other crypto assets inside the wallet in a non-custodial manner. But I think I'll pass on to Antonio there because he can give a bit more details about what we're building.
Hi again. So more details about what we're building. Yeah, you mentioned the marketplace with the value-added services, but one of the cool things that I'm most excited about is that we're embedding a Cardano wallet inside of each application by cryptographically creating the keys for the Cardano wallet from the user's DID keys. So that way, what we are helping is for people to only have to maintain one set of keys, which would be the DID, and the wallet will be automatically created from that. So when you restore your DIDs in another device, you automatically have your wallet there. You don't need to remember so many words as you're used to, and eventually and potentially you will be able to say, hey, Mickey, do you want to receive some ADA? I will send you just by using a contact book and sending you this ADA. You don't need to tell me your address because by the use of the DID, I can send it to you transparently. So that's what we're working. It's an iterative effort, right? So we have all the base in there. We want to have eventually a fully fledged Cardano wallet with stateful delegation, with NFT displays, etc. And but as I said, it's an iterative release, and we want to make sure that the experience is the best possible. It will also allow you to stake your WMT as if you were in the worldmobiletoken.com vault. So that's another nice feature in there. And what else is in the application coming? Mickey, what else should we mention about the application, the global app?
I think there's one additional feature, which was the on-ramp. So users would be able to purchase WMTs and ADA through an on-ramp process.
Yeah, directly to the wallet, very, very transparently. So they don't need, again, to get an address, remember the address, etc., etc. So yeah, that's another exciting feature.
And I think you're going to allow staking as well, right, Antonio?
Yeah, sure. I mentioned that we will allow staking your WMT as if you were in the vault, but also the stake pool ADA staking. So yeah, aiming to have a full Cardano wallet that's tied to the DID.
Very much.
Great. One thing just to bear in mind is that it's not going to be available everywhere all at once. I think there's a movie called that or something. But it is going to start to become available in different territories. So we will let everybody know as we roll out into the different countries. There's, as you know, regulations for both the on-ramp and also the Cardano wallet. There's different rules in different places. So we will keep you up to date with that rollout.
Absolutely, but very exciting, and I think that we've got some screenshots of that have been shared now, so you can have a first look at how those different parts are going to integrate into the app. And yeah, it's not long to go until that's going to be released in the first territories. So that's the global app. What's next? Let's talk a little bit about. We'll go from global app to global deployment. Let's talk a little bit more about what's going on in the US and also sort of further abroad. Mickey, there's an Asian country that we've been speaking about. Would you like to talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So one of the nice things, as I mentioned before, was Zanzibar for certain environments can be copied and pasted. We've been in an Asian country for some time, working with a supplier that provides around 10 million households the backbone fiber. And we've been talking about how we can work together. And there's been a lot of movement. But of course, doing everything properly is the way we have to do things, because you get the sharing economy wrong, you've wasted a hell of a lot of time. So now that we've got the sharing economy right, we are copying and pasting the sharing economy straight into Pakistan, which is nearly 200 million people. The Wi-Fi model, there's infrastructure down on the ground right now, and we believe we're going to go live before the end of this quarter into Pakistan. So that's it's a very important and strategic move for us to see that the sharing economy works in the copy and paste model out there. So soon enough, you'll see the top 5, top 10, top 20 nodes for each country as they go live, and Pakistan will be on WMT scan. And of course, there is USA. USA is super cool. There's a lot of things that we can't talk about because of NDAs. There's a lot happening. A team actually growing pretty big out there. And we're very fortunate to have all of James's experience, all of my experience, Alan's experience, and some of our partners' experiences, so that we can get to the point where we can be a very different DY proposition than any of the DY propositions out there. An actual DY proposition that serves the big three, which is where the wholesale revenue is going to come from, and that's what's going to bring enormous riches to the network. And that's super important. So as time passes, we'll be able to share more information. I hope next month there'll be some pretty big announcements, or the month afterwards. But we can rest assured that USA is very much on our roadmap. And that model in USA will also move to other models around Europe and Asia, the more developed countries. A nice piece of news to share. Actually, I'll pass it over to James to share this piece of news.
Oh yes, I mean we have just signed a partnering agreement with UCSD Engineering School, so that will allow us to build and test technology in San Diego with the university's help and assistance and so on. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool, and we've got some great engineers there that will be working with the antennas and the radio equipment that we've developed and outsourced to put it all together, and the eventual unit that will be the final V1, hopefully in June, July for the Aerostat, and this is quite a wonderful unit, to be honest with you.
I'll give you a piece of trivia about UCSD, so San Diego. It's the second most applied for university in America, just below UCLA. So because we have a great university here and fantastic weather, and you should all move here. But no, if you all move here, then we'll have congestion on the roads, which we don't currently have. So yeah, it's great university, great place.
And also there's
Could you
terrible
just,
internet, right?
clarify what was the name of the university? Because I think a few people didn't quite get.
It's UCSD. That's University
Yep.
of California, San Diego.
Yep. Thank you.
Very exciting stuff. While we were speaking about this earlier, we were talking around the question around the different AirNodes, the TV Whitespace AirNodes, and how they'll be how they deliver the network. James, some of the stuff you shared there was really interesting. Perhaps we can cover that now as well. If you'd be happy to give a little more insight into the technical way that this is delivered.
Yeah, so if you're building a cellular network, they've got quite a lot of jobs to do, but you have to get connection to the handsets, and usually that involves installing a bunch of base stations. These days they're called eNode Ds or gNode Bs, catchy phrase, but I mean they're base stations. And a base station, however small it is, so a base station could be as small as an inexpensive Wi-Fi point all the way up to an extremely large MIMO antenna array, right? So, but they all need a backhaul. So we need to get the internet to them, and with quite high capacity. So obviously a simple way of getting the internet there is with fiber, but fiber is expensive because you need to trench the ground, and it takes time to put in. So a lot of initial deployments, and in fact deployments that are there then for 30 years, use microwave links or some form of backhaul. And what we are working on at the moment is using TV Whitespace as the backhaul, because it does a very large area, it's relatively inexpensive, it has quite good capacity, and so we can put in a TV Whitespace system and broadcast to let's say 10-15 let's say a 10-mile radius from fiber, and then drop that into those areas, and then re-radiate them as either Wi-Fi or some form of cellular communication to the handset. So that's what we're using TV Whitespace for, and we have trials going on for that in Africa and also in America.
Thanks so much, James. And we did have a question that came in earlier this week. We've spoken about Asia, we've spoken about Africa, we've spoken about the US, but we did have a question around a potential rollout in the UK and Europe. Mickey, Alan, what would you like to share about this?
Zanzibar, our African countries, and USA are our priority now. Pakistan is very interesting and looking extremely promising. Many surprises will come up, but we don't have, not at the top of our priority list anyway, is rolling out in Europe right now. This year, we'll focus on the countries that we're in. We have a lot of countries that have contacted us that would like to talk. More in Malaysia as well, more in Asia as well, and it's a very exciting moment. But we've got a lot of open doors, right? And we are a small team trying to do the job of 1,000 men and women in a telco. So we need to make sure that we focus on what's there, what we've got, rather than adding new places. But things can always change depending on who approaches us and the opportunity. But right now, focus hugely on Zanzibar, the other countries, Mozambique, Kenya, Nigeria, into the USA, and increased focus into Pakistan.
Thanks, Mickey. Okay, let's go over to our man with the plan here, Gregory. When it comes to Aerostats, you're our go-to. You know all there is to know. So perhaps you can give us an update on where we are with the Aerostat launch in Zanzibar.
Well, thanks very much, Josie, for that embarrassing introduction. I'm sure there's still much for me to learn as well. But what I can tell you is that we are extremely enthusiastic and excited about the upcoming launch in Zanzibar. We are making solid progress. What is absolutely the case is that whenever government discussions are involved in getting permissions for something that is new and unique, they often can take longer than one would hope or expect or anticipate. But we're making progress and we're getting there. We are ready to rock and roll. We've got the helium is on the site. The site is ready to go. The Aerostat is ready to go. There are about a dozen people all over the world who are itching to get on their airplanes to go to Zanzibar and do it. And we are so close to actually doing it that I can almost taste it. I would say I could taste the helium, but helium is tasteless. Anyway, what I would say is that we have learned so much from the process that we've gone through with the Tanzanian government, with the authorities in Zanzibar, that have helped us understand the process much more effectively for when we roll out in other countries across Africa. And so I think that although there have been some delays, these have helped us as part of a learning process and will help us in future markets. But the other thing that's been interesting, because of the level of enthusiasm and engagement on what we're doing in Tanzania and in Zanzibar, all of the other countries, particularly that visited us at the Mobile World Congress in Africa, are opening up new opportunities, and not just in Africa. We have a growing list of countries where various entities, be they government or commercial, are encouraging us to bring an aerostat to demonstrate what we can do using an aerostat in their country. We are not going to overtake Zanzibar. We're going to get it done in Zanzibar because that's our focus. But soon after Zanzibar, we're going to be starting to do detailed planning for a range of other countries. So I think that we're really, really close. And the Mobile World Congress and the Foundry partnership we have is helping and supporting our efforts at moving into other countries. I'd like, if I may, Josie, to talk a little bit about the other lighter than air platform that we've been talking about, which is the high altitude assisted balloon. This has always been part of our strategy. And whilst we were at Mobile World Congress, we, did I use the word soon? Did someone tell me that I used the word soon? Uh-oh, that's another euro gone. Never mind. Yeah, so high altitude assisted balloons at Mobile World Congress. We met the other members of the HAPS Alliance. HAPS is High Altitude Platform Station. And there are a number of companies, including the likes of Boeing and Airbus and others, who are developing stratospheric platforms, some lighter than air, some winged aircraft that operate at this height. And the aim of the HAPS Alliance is to work together between companies that might in the future compete in this space to ensure that regulations are in place, that there's a better understanding of the environment that they're going to be operating in, so that people don't bump into each other. We actually had a very interesting chat with the people at Airbus, because they have a fixed wing aircraft with a bit of a pointy nose, and we did ask them if they could put a large rubber nose on the front of their fixed wing aircraft, just in case it bumps into one of our high altitude assisted balloons in the stratosphere, so that it'll bounce off. But it's all very good humoured collegial discussions that are held in the HAPS Alliance. And so we have now initiated the process of joining that alliance, and our membership is in process right now. Our contribution will be in the area of regulatory environment in the stratosphere and helping the other members to understand more about the lighter than air platforms that we're developing with our partners. That's basically the good news on the high altitude assisted balloons. Zanzibar is coming along. Can I answer any other questions about lighter than air, Josie?
So I think that was it was a great recap of what we've been doing in terms of lighter than air stuff, and it really was so interesting to see you and other people working in the space discussing about how we move this forward from a and all the considerations that need to be put into place. I believe there's some quite exciting news when it comes to aerostats and launches. Heard a rumour that there might be one launching as we speak. Is this something you'd like to shed a bit of light on, Gregory?
Well, actually, there are two very exciting pieces of news that I am allowed to talk about today. So let's talk about one of them first. And that is indeed the fact that as we speak, there is a brand new World Mobile owned Aerostat straight off the production line flying today in North America, in the US, in New Hampshire. We're doing a demonstration today and tomorrow of the new Aerostat, not only operating as an Aerostat, but with one of our payloads on it, connecting to an AirNode that has been carried out to New Hampshire from Zanzibar, especially for this demonstration, so that we can showcase our sort of entire network model to partners and regulators in the US. And we're also using an app from Zanzibar in the US to demonstrate the use of the app, the AirNode, and the Aerostat, all interconnected and integrated, providing the service. And a couple of key members of the World Mobile team have received calls today as part of that demonstration from our Zanzibar representative in New Hampshire, using his app and the network that World Mobile has enabled for this demonstration. So it's very different from what we did for the Saudi Arabia activity back in November, which was primarily about an Aerostat. It was a completely different Aerostat. It wasn't one of ours. This one is one of ours, and it's being demonstrated with the entire network integrated to it. The Aerostat that we're using, that you can now see on Twitter, by the way, is designed to operate at about 1,000 feet, about 300 meters above the ground, in certain specific topographies. So primarily at sea level, but also a little bit higher than sea level, carrying a payload of around 65 kilograms, that sort of weight. And other Aerostats in our fleet can carry more and go much higher, and those will be separately demonstrated in due course. But this is a huge step forward for us because it's connecting the app to the AirNode to the Aerostat and demonstrating its use fully.
It's incredibly exciting, really, really exciting to see the pictures coming through, and those of us who've received those calls, and there will definitely be more coming, more shared about this in due course. And
absolutely,
you mentioned fleets.
Can I give them the other piece
please
of news?
do.
Please, I am itching to do this because some of you may have read in my bio that I am the chairman of an organization called the Airship Association. And so whilst I've been working mostly in aerostats, to be honest, my deep background is in manned airships. And I'm really excited and thrilled to be able to tell you that World Mobile is in negotiation to use manned airships as part of the service that we provide in a number of ways. We can use manned airships to promote and maintain availability during those times when an aerostat may have to come down. We can deploy a manned airship very quickly from one part of a country to another part of a country to fill a gap or plug a gap. And so these manned airships that we're in discussion about at the moment will probably end up forming an integral part of our lighter than air inventory. They have generally a much higher, much bigger payload than an Aerostat. And of course, having people on board, it has some other advantages because we can also put decals on the side of an airship to either promote World Mobile or our partners, or we can put other decals on should we choose to do so. But they can be used for disaster relief. They can be used for plugging the network, as I've said. They can also be used for testing and trialing new technologies in new areas, whereas an Aerostat has to be driven across country or shipped to a new country. In most cases, a manned airship can just fly there. So I can't emphasize how excited I am that manned airships are in the mix. And I have to tell you in the community, manned airships are not in the mix because I'm part of the team. This was something that was suggested to me by the technical side of World Mobile, the telecom side of World Mobile. And of course, I've just picked it up and I'm running with it because I think it's fantastic.
I do too. I just returned back from actually Miami. I flew there, was there for 48 hours or a little bit less, including the flight time from Barcelona. And I can tell you that airships are super exciting and super practical for first responder, natural disaster, redundancy in the network, and they're very beautiful as well. So as and when we get one, we'd love to invite some of the community members to actually come and fly on our manned airship and to see see everything in action. You know, there's many uses for this as well. You know, events, football games, concerts, parties, and of course, it's an incredible advertisement in the sky, filling in the network, the ubiquitous coverage, whilst the ground nodes and the aerostats all function. I think there's a video out there right now that we had made about 6 months ago, but we're going to update that with what it would look like with a manned airship as well.
Mickey and Josie, if I may, a couple of questions have been asked about aerostats and airships, and in particular, there was a question from let me just find it, Nova Earth Nodes, about the helium shortage. Anybody who knows anything about lighter than air will be aware of the helium shortage in the world at the moment, and what I want to do is address that head on. The shortage has been caused by a couple of different things that have happened. One of them is that there were some new helium production facilities that were due to come online last year in eastern Russia. And before, more than a year ago, there was a fire in one of those helium production plants, which prevented it from coming online. And so all of the major providers of helium had planned to have a significant new source of helium from Russia, which didn't materialize. And of course, now with sanctions, repairs are not going to be made to the Russian plant until the circumstances change. So that's one factor. The second factor is that helium, primarily at the moment, is a byproduct of natural gas, but that's not always going to be the case. There are two new sources of helium that have been identified in the last 5 years that are not yet in production. And these two new sources are not a byproduct of natural gas. You have about 10% helium and 90% nitrogen. One of them, ironically, is in Tanzania, and one of them is in South Africa. And we feel that once these sources come online, the shortage will go away. And it will not go away just for a short period of time. It will go away for quite a long time, decades in our view. In addition, we are talking to some people, in particular for tethered aerostats, and in the stratosphere about the potential to use hydrogen. The use of hydrogen in lighter than air vehicles is easy to do very safely. we will not have, dozens of Hindenburgs all over the place. Far from it. People put hydrogen into their cars these days, and technology has moved on to a point at which hydrogen can be very safely handled. But as yet, the aerostat manufacturers are reluctant to offer aerostats that use hydrogen simply because of public perception. But we believe that there are some technical ways to change that public perception, and over time, not in the near term, hydrogen is likely to be one of the lifting gases that we consider. So decals, somebody asked about decals. You can brand an aerostat or an airship in three ways actually, but the third way is no longer used. People used to use paint on the side of an airship or an aerostat. That's no longer done because it's unnecessary. It's heavy, changes the performance characteristics of the vehicle, and it's difficult to change. But the two established ways that are still used is one is you hang a banner onto the side of the envelope. Envelopes can be manufactured with attachment points for banners. The banners are separately manufactured. They have to be to a very high standard of manufacturing because, for a number of reasons. And they can be attached by tying or using Velcro strips onto the side of the envelope. The other way, which is my preferred way, to be honest, is using decals. Some of you may have sat in a bus where the window is covered in an advertisement, but you can see through it. Well, the decals that are used on aerostats and on airships are very similar to that. They have to be made up of dots so that helium leaking out of the envelope doesn't form bubbles on the decal. It can escape. And it uses glue that allows you to pull the decal off after a period of time and replace it. So these decals are very effective. They can be changed relatively quickly. They're not that expensive, and it allows you to put whatever message you want on the side of your aerostat or your airship.
There's actually one more as well that I was speaking to the entity that I went to see in Miami. He was saying that they're quite close to being able to put LEDs as a wrap, and then from your smartphone you can change the advertisement.
And in fact, Mickey, LEDs in one form or another, actually normal light bulbs have been used on the side of manned airships for quite some time, but in the past they've been extremely heavy. And I think what your contact was talking about is the fact that now that lightweight LEDs are becoming available, you can effectively turn the side of a manned airship, at least, into a television screen, just using LEDs. It's all about the weight of the LEDs and the size of the screen you want to mount. I think for tethered aerostats of the type we're going to be using, that's not really a practical option. But for manned airships, absolutely, those are an option to use for real-time changes of message.
Fantastic stuff. Super exciting.
Very.
Thank you, Josie.
I think it's that time we open the floor, isn't it?
I think it is indeed. So thank you so much for listening, everybody. Please now feel free to come forward with your questions. If you request to speak, I can add you in, and any questions that you have, we're here to answer. Oh, it looks like our other new speaker here is connected. So 799, would you like to go first?
799.
Hi, how's everybody doing?
Hey, we're good.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
for joining us.
So my question was, I'm not sure if it's been answered, but when purchasing an AirNode, how is that going to work from the company's perspective? Am I going to be buying the AirNode and also paying for the installation and maintenance fees? Like long term, how is that going to be looking?
You will either split that with the host, you will pay for it yourself, and then the profit margin, revenue margin that you'll make will be different depending if you do. So if you're sitting in an office in New York, but you want to fund a node in Kenya, and you want to pay all of the costs, then you'll earn a larger amount of the revenue running through that node to cover your costs. If you split the cost, then the revenue falls down slightly, the profits fall down slightly and get shared between the hosts because they have costs. And then if the host is paying for all the costs, then the host would expect a slightly larger chunk of the profits to cover their electricity and so on.
Awesome. And then quick second question, sorry. But after the initial whitelist sale, is there going to be a limit on how many AirNodes I'm going to be able to purchase? Just because I live in an area that's in Southern California has terrible internet. I'd love to put them up all over the place.
No limit, but of course, too many AirNodes next to each other can cause some potential issues. And we don't want 50 AirNodes going down in the same place if there's not the customers there to take up the adoption, of course. So we have a nice algorithm that tells us what's happening in the area. And then we will say, if this area is saturated, then no more AirNodes will go down. But it's a first come, first service. So if you wanted to buy 20 in an area that needed 20, you'd buy 20. No problem.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, too.
Thanks so much for your question. We've had a question come in on Telegram about the Unclaimed EN NFTs. Who'd like to take that one?
Alan will take that one.
The short answer is that it's still not been decided. We've had requests to auction them, but right now a final decision has not been made. There's not too many, but obviously we will consult with the community as well before any final decisions made.
Thanks, Alan. Anyone else with any questions? King Scar, I'm trying to connect you again, but I think if you're on Android, there might be a problem with this today for some reason. So anyone who is coming to speak, it might be tricky unless you're on iPhone. But let's give it a go. Perhaps you'd like to type your question and then we can answer it that way. We've got another request here, so we're going to add Karma Paul in. Hi, Karma.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I joined late. Mickey, it's great to see you again, gang.
Hey,
how
Karma.
are you?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Doing well, yeah. Thanks for having these. And again, I need to go back and listen to the recording. I don't want to force anybody to rehash anything, but I'm curious. I saw the pictures of the U.S. And James, I see you there. Are you guys up in New Hampshire near me or whereabouts?
We're exactly in New Hampshire near you.
Oh, my
well
gosh,
done.
I thought so when I saw the foliage, yeah, and the snow.
We have several locations that we're looking at, rural and urban as well. So Nevada is one of the locations. Very, very exciting for us. A lot happening down there. New Hampshire is where our test ground is, where we launch and run the demonstrations. As Gregory said, we've got some of the Zanzibar people there right now, looking at what we're running, how we're doing it, and then we bring also governments and governors to this site in particular to show them exactly how the mobile works.
Well, and New Hampshire has a long history. So I live right next door in Massachusetts, right over the line, literally 6 miles from the border. And they have a long history of supporting high-tech communities that evolve the economy up there. So if I can be of any help, guys, I'm busy as hell, but I will find and make time. This is super important to me as an EarthNode operator, and I would love to, just be there as a champion and a cheerleader, if nothing else.
You're a good man. Please send us a message with your contact details if you haven't already, and then we'd love to reach out to you.
No, that would be great. We'd be more than happy to do that. No, thank you guys for doing this. I'm super excited, and carry on.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate your support.
Thanks so much for coming on and speaking. And yes, certainly, let's follow that up, and would be really great to see you. Are there any other questions from anyone here that's listening, especially those on iPhone. If there are anybody who's on Android who can't speak, feel free to add your question onto the tweet and we can answer it that way. I see that there's a question just come through, and I think we touched on this earlier when we spoke about the sidechain paper. But Antonio, perhaps you can reiterate about the and talk a little bit more about the timelines around Mainnet and what the next steps are there in terms of what people are going to see at what point.
So yeah, as Mickey mentioned, by the end of this month, we are going to release this paper that will outline the whole solution and path to mainnet. We are working really, really hard to reduce the development times, but as you can figure out by the spoilers that we gave and you will see on the paper, there's a lot that we're doing, right? So we are still aiming to have next quarter release that you can enjoy. Looking at the end of the quarter anyway, but once you have the paper on your hands, you will see the amount of development that's going on, and you will understand the eventual solution that we are building.
It's going to be really exciting to be able to come back and dig into that in a little bit more detail on our next spaces. Thank you so much. I hope that answers the question around, or adds a little bit more light to the question around Mainnet. We've had another question come in here around regulation. Alan, I think this is one for you.
I knew it.
So we've got, I'm on Android. Sorry about the problems with Android today, so I'll just type it. What difficulties, if any, have you had in setting up in the US and UK compared to Zanzibar in regards to crypto and telecom regulations?
Regulations are easy. Everybody, is totally open to crypto across the world. Okay, so effectively, we thought about this at the beginning, which is why one of the reasons that people, when they're earning on their AirNodes, they actually, earn in fiat. So it is a challenge for many companies in this space, but hopefully we've taken an approach which allows us to accelerate our deployment, to get the AirNodes distributed, and to use crypto and digital assets in an effective way, which fits into a changing, dynamic regulatory environment in different countries. Hopefully that kind of answers it.
I think it does. I think that was a great answer. Okay, we've got another one here that's come in on Twitter, I think, in terms of AirNodes and ownership. And quite an interesting point here about NFTs. So, not sure who wants to take this, but let's see. How will the ownership of the AirNodes work? Will it also be an NFT? Will the rewards go to the wallet? Who wants to talk a little bit more about AirNodes? Mickey, one for you?
Sure. AirNodes, the currency goes currently to the people who are hosting them in a local currency, where they have a wallet that they can accept WMTZs, then TZ shillings, then they will have it that way, or it can be delivered by voucher or by cash. We're ready for all environments. Clearly, it will be very different in the US than it is in Zanzibar, and actually different in Kenya than it will be in Zanzibar as well. So that's pretty much how everyone gets paid right now. In reality, we're the owners of the AirNodes, so we're the ones that have put the AirNodes down, just for technical purposes. But eventually, actually, we're going to give the hosts probably ownership of those AirNodes as a thank you for being with us for the last year and testing the sharing economy.
I think in answer just to the point about the NFT, is that going to be incorporated? Again, in the ideal scenario, NFTs across the world, there's no issues with any country, but we still have to bear in mind where we're deploying the AirNodes, an NFT can be deemed to be a digital asset, so we have to be compliant with local regulations, and that's our focus is on enabling people to make money from running the nodes wherever they are in the world.
There we go. So that's in terms of AirNodes, and there will be more information coming about that in due course. I'm not going to say the S word. BeamNode.
I'm trying to connect, but I think it must be joining from an Android phone. It says on my side connecting. Oh no, you're in.
BeamNode. Can you hear us?
Hi everyone. Can everyone hear me?
We can. Welcome.
We can hear you loud
Hi.
and clear.
Thanks for having me. I joined a little late, so I don't know if my question has already been answered. But do you have a rough indication when the mainnet is going live?
So the white paper will be released on or before the 31st of March, which will then indicate to how much development we've got left to go.
Okay, nice.
At that point, it will be a much more open discussion, and the whole community will be able to see what we've been working on and why.
Okay, good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you too.
Thanks so much, BeamNode. We have somebody else requesting to speak. So, the EarthNode Alliance.
It's not somebody else. It's the EarthNode Alliance.
Hey, guys,
the Alliance is here.
You're here. Hopefully your connection works. What a day for Spaces. Here we go. Connected. Alliance, welcome. Thanks for joining us. We love what you guys are doing.
Thank you. We are such big fans of World Mobile and everything, so we're very, very excited. I have a couple of questions, kind of more on the financial side of things.
Sure.
Kind of two questions. The first is I was wondering, I've always explained to people that in a way the World Mobile token is kind of like owning stock in the company in a sense, just because there's a monetary value attached to it. I was wondering, is there ever a possibility that World Mobile goes public on the actual stock exchange, which might devalue or change the use of WMT?
It hasn't been designed to be like that. It's designed to be the utility that runs the network. I can't really comment on stuff like this because, as you know, the world at the moment is very, very anti-crypto. But, it's been designed to be a sharing economy that is powered by the people, run by the people, and for the people. We're trying to take away a lot of typical financial instruments that people put into place and make sure that, we have something that's sustainable and that's working and it's going to grow really, really fast. So our intention is absolutely to make the sharing economy the key part of this, right? So if that answers your question, I don't know, maybe Alan has something to say as well.
No, I think you've answered it, Mickey. It's a utility token, and as the usage on the network grows, that's where the value has always been designed to be in the token economy. So that's where, if you're talking about the future of the company is really there to support and assist the sharing economy, which is World Mobile and World Mobile Chain.
Gotcha. Thank you guys so much. I did have one other question, and it was more about the EarthNode operators. And I was just wondering, is it going to be similar to just basic node operation where you operate the node, you get rewarded in WMT, and that's it? Then you have to claim it on your local governmental income tax? Or has there ever been any talk about making EarthNode operators some sort of an employee of WMT in order to cover potential compliance issues from country to country?
Whoa. I think you need to take local advice. Every country's got its own view, especially when it comes to taxes and digital assets. If you're earning from running a node, whether it's an AirNode earning in fiat or EarthNodes earning in digital asset tokens, then many countries will just deem that as an income. But again, we can't give tax advice on that question, I'm afraid.
Totally understand. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ethnode Alliance team.
Whilst you're on financials as well, I think there's something quite important for me to say. So I've also seen rumours that people are worried that World Mobile, its bank balance is unhealthy or potentially could be unhealthy, and can we see through what we've started? So the answer is absolutely yes. We have several years of runway left. We're managing ourselves very, very well. It is an extremely cash-intensive business, but we're very good at running something lean. And again, I've reiterated, we're doing what 1,000 men and women in a normal company would do with 100 people at the moment. So we're definitely substituting being lean and working really hard as opposed to what typical telcos would do, which is just go out and spend lots and lots of money on licensed hardware and licenses and all different things to operate their network. Of course, there are the costs of running staff, the cost of buying actual licenses in countries and setting up and spectrum and equipment. But there is absolutely, we're in a great position to see this through and to get to the sharing economy. And now that we're actually starting to see revenue on the network, it's very encouraging.
Absolutely. Really exciting times to come. Nova, thank you for joining us. What's your question for today?
Thank you for having me. Hi, everyone. Nova's here. Nice hearing you all. And thank you, Mr. Gottlieb, for answering my question about helium shortage. It cleared a lot and reassured me in some ways. I have...
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
Thank you. I have one more question, and I don't know whom to address. So, but it's a quick one. Will owning a mobile plan from World Mobile give me a digital identity in the future, the likes of Atala Prism or IAMX?
Yes, it will. Every user on the World Mobile Network has a digital identity associated to them, and that's theirs. Core functionality requires that to work. And also remember, we're a mobile network operator that actually proves that we don't mess with your data, that we can't do the things that other mobile network operators might do. I'm not saying that they do. You can look on Google and check yourself. But we're actually making ourselves completely blind as a mobile network operator to keep your data as your data, self-data governance. What we're not doing is going against the regulator, because the regulator has to have critical key information, which I think is correct. I just don't think it's correct that normal mobile network operators will abuse potentially or have the chance to abuse your data. So the DID is integral to that, and every single user has a DID.
Thank you.
Thanks for your question, Nova.
Rick Middleton, the tireless Rick Middleton. Thank you very much for everything you do in the community.
Good evening. Thank you, guys.
How you doing?
Rick, good to see you.
Let it node.
Let it node.
Yeah.
Let it node.
Fantastic, guys. Very exciting to hear about Pakistan and the app and the new Aerostat demo with the full system-wide thing and the new white paper. And I could ask a million questions, but I would like to ask about the app. So is the screenshot that Mike's posted, which has got like the scan to earn and the Cardano wallet, is that what we're going to see when the global release comes out? And if so, when might that be?
We're pushing for the end of this quarter, and we think we're going to be pretty on target with nearly everything. Scan to earn has its limitations. For example, it will only be released initially on Android telephones. Apple deals with it very differently. So rather than work on the Apple first, which may take us much longer, we've chosen to put it out on Android.
Yeah.
Most of the features that we talked about will be released, and there'll be iterations if we've missed any features that will happen day on day, week on week, and app users will be able to see those come to life. But we're expecting the end of this quarter.
Awesome. Fantastic. That's very exciting. Yeah, I know that Android's coming first and iPhone will be later. That's no problem. Just one other question for a friend about the system requirements for Earth nodes. There was some documentation, like 6 months ago in the World Mobile Docs site that got the specs for the chain node and then the full node. of course, we're now running on the testnet, and the requirements are like way, way lower than that now. So is the final stats going to look more like what we saw, ages ago? They were quite high, those requirements. That's one maybe for Antonio.
Yeah, that's the one for me. So remember that we have those two different setups, right? The chain node and the full node. And why the full node requirements were so high? Because we plan to add a lot of services on top of the nodes. So that's why. Of course, if you want to just run a minimum node with a minimum set of services, the requirements will be much lower than the maximum spec that we share there. And that was the specs that we were using for testing a full on node, right? So I anticipate that not everybody will want or will need to go to that huge machine. But in any case, as you scale your machine, you will offer more services, and you know what it means for the revenue, right?
Yeah.
I think everybody will want to go for those heavy machines once they see the traffic on the network.
Yeah, they will.
And the consumption. So, but that, over time, and probably over the next, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, as the network grows to the hundreds of millions of people that we expect it to, as technology grows, people will put bigger machines up and new modules get added. It's a continuous work, right? What we'll see in the next 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 24 months is making sure that we're at the top of innovation and providing services that people need. So yeah, the more powerful your server, once the network is in a steady state, the more modules you can run. The more modules you can run, the more you're serving people, and then it's.
And remember also that you can scale as you go, right? So don't need to go now for the full spec. You can be scaling your box as you go, and you see the requirements are increasing because you want to add more modules that are available. So yeah, just use the minimum amount that works for you now, and then iterate like we do, right?
Great, thank you. That's what I thought. Hey, if I could have one more one, could you tell us a little bit more about Pakistan? I was kind of typing. Tell us about Pakistan one more time. Would you mind?
Pakistan's super cool. It's a really highly densely populated areas that we've chosen to go into. Less the unconnected spaces, copying the same model that's happened in Zanzibar. And it literally has been, okay, we are doing a copy and paste. That's it. Which translating the application, of course, to the local language, and restricting it to the things that it can do. I.e., you can't have on-ramp in Pakistan for crypto, but it's a copy paste. So that's why for me, it's very exciting. And our partners out there own a lot of fiber to the ground. They serve around 10 million customers on a wholesale level. And have thousands or tens of thousands of customers themselves on fixed services. So we're just going to pick up on the end of their fixed services where they've got fiber, could break out and put the same AirNode that's in Zanzibar down on the ground there. And we're expecting a whole different uptake. The ARPU is going to be different. So the revenue coming through the node is going to be different. Just keep your eyes open. Watch WMT Scan. Ask questions in the community. As soon as we've got stuff that we can reveal and data, then we'll be revealing that.
Great, thanks. That's awesome. Yeah, having lots of fiber down on the ground will definitely be a massive plus point. Thank you very much for answering my questions, guys. Take care.
Good to hear
No
you,
problem.
Rick.
Thank you, Rick. I'll see you in the chat.
Yes,
see you in the
chat.
There's a couple of questions come through here. I see one from Intellectual Honesty. He says that there is rumors down the grapevine that yourself and IOG have had a bit of friction. Absolutely zero, nothing related. There's zero fire there or smoke. I'm very good friends with Charles. We've built a really good relationship. We're helping their sidechain team. Their sidechain team is helping us. We speak regularly. Top people, fantastic people at OG. Nothing bad to say about them, and definitely no friction. Only love and want to change the world together. And there's also another question. Do we know when we can expect roughly the public sale of AirNodes? Again, once we know we've got it right, which we're very, very close to having it right, then we will launch the public sale of the AirNodes. The actual website is ready. The matchmaking, as Nick told you, is close to being ready. And it can be, I'm not going to say the word because I'm going to get told off again. I've only said it once this evening. But it's imminent. The minute that we know we're right, we hit the button and we go live. And we've got Mike on our team as well. So we're going to mass market this. And it's the only way to connect the unconnected. It's the only way to connect the underserved. It's the only way to fill in the Swiss cheese problems, right? We're stronger connected. We're stronger together. So we're looking forward to that sale and getting up a lot of towers that people can connect to them. And we've got a few tricks up our sleeve as well in the way that we run our towers compared to any other DY.
Exciting stuff. DGen, thanks for your patience. Be really happy to take your question now.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me up. I was wondering if you guys had anything in the pipeline when it comes to like a similar model that like Helium runs when it comes to proof of coverage and low ROAN or some sort of like. Are you guys familiar with like Helium?
Sure.
Yeah, we know it well.
I would imagine you guys are. So is there anything in that realm where people are going to be maybe, adding these things to the network outside of, I know you guys are looking for people that don't have any coverage, but do you look to spread the network for coverage areas?
Sure. I mean, again, the Swiss cheese problem is a problem that exists everywhere where there's holes in connectivity. And then there's the rural problem. We're built to address both. When it comes down to IoT, there's several IoT protocols that are actually in the payload in the Aerostat, whether that's LoRa or whether that's Sigfox, depending on where we are. And of course, because we're much higher up, we can send the signal much further. So one Aerostat can do a whole city or a whole huge amount of area. I haven't quite got the stats on how far it can go, but I believe it can go hundreds of kilometers from height. It's something that we're looking into, but again, the success of World Mobile relies on revenue coming into the network. There is very little revenue for anything IoT currently. That's not to say in the next 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, there won't be. I think there will be as more devices become online, more services become online, gas meters, water meters, smart housing. Then there'll be a need for it. But right now, it's a long way away, and bringing revenue into the network is the key priority. Otherwise, why would people buy AirNodes? Why would people buy to have it there on the side of the building, looking pretty, making no money, or giving away tokens? For us, that's not the game. For us, it's about having AirNodes that are used, that are put in places that are used, and we're spending a lot of time making sure that we're getting those right places to be able to indicate, look, put an AirNode here, and you're going to see a positive ROI on your investment into it.
You've got to remember that the US is quite dynamic. So just because you've got great coverage today doesn't mean you're going to have great coverage in a year's time, because the demand for data in the USA is growing around 40% per annum. And, it's a quite high base. So people are using a lot of mobile data, but it's still going up very rapidly. And, you look at the headroom for it to increase. The average user of data in the USA is using something like 15 gigabytes per month, but the average home user is using 600 gig. So there's a lot of headroom of demand as people move everything to mobile, and it's going up very rapidly. So just because you've got great coverage in an area today, if it continues to grow for a couple of years and you don't densify the network, it will then have a coverage hole. So we are interested in both connecting the unconnected today and making sure we can provide additional coverage capacity as the network gets busier and busier and needs to densify.
But in short, we don't see a value yet for IoT bringing back revenue. It could be an add-on to the node, no problem. It's just whoever adds it on shouldn't expect for it to make a significant difference.
Yeah.
Not for the next 4 or 5 years.
Thanks, DGen. I hope that answered your question. Was there anything else that you wanted to add or ask?
I think that's mostly good. I kind of had like a second question, but I don't know if anyone here could answer it. But mostly about how you guys are being traded and how I see you're available on like Cardano swaps, but also I see there's trading pairs like World Mobile USDT. Does that mean tokens are available in many chains?
Alan, you deal with the lawyers.
I think you were right with the first comment that yeah, that's not something we can really discuss on this.
Okay, because I was mostly wondering if a lot of the volume for, and if someone wants to buy World Mobile token, you have a lot of the trading volume on KuCoin and a lot of it on Huobi or Huobi, and like only 1% of it or less is traded actually on the mainnet for Cardano, like on Milky Swap or Muesli Swap or MinSwap. And I was just wondering about the actual distribution of like ownership of the tokens, and if like people own them only on Cardano, or if you're owning them, if you buy them on an exchange, what do you own when you're buying them with USDT? Like, are you
what I can answer is that today it is a Cardano native asset, so all the WMTs are on the native chain. They're on Cardano. That's it.
Okay, makes sense. There's probably some ownership there when you're buying it on exchange. You don't really own anything, not your keys, not your tokens. So I imagine you can't just like take WMT off an exchange.
No, I do believe you can. Absolutely, you can withdraw it to your own wallet.
To your own wallet. Okay,
100%. Yes.
Well, it's good then to see native Cardano tokens being traded with other pairs that are not Cardano stablecoins. I guess that's the interesting thing.
I'd love to agree with the lawyers much Shrewsbury saying anymore.
Thank you for your question.
Yes, thank you guys for the time.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks for being here.
I'm actually running late for another call, which I've asked to be pushed by 15 minutes. It's 11 o'clock over here, so I've got another 1 hour or 2 hours of calling to do. So I've got 5 more minutes if anybody wants to ask any more questions. If not, I'll be available in the World Mobile chat or the EarthNode chat, or always monitoring, watching Twitter.
I think we've got a question here from Connecting Earth, and then there's a couple that have come through via text. So let's take those. If there's anyone else who wants to ask a question here in the spaces, please come forward now, and then after those 3 or 4, we can call it an evening.
Hi,
Connecting Earth. Hi. Thanks for joining us.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi.
We hear you well.
Hi guys. Very nice to hear about this AMA, and excited to hear all the updates that you have provided. My question would be first to know, with the release of the mainnet that you were talking about earlier, that Antonio said it would be in second half of this year, or I think second quarter. Is it going to release the full sharing economy model along with the rewards for the EarthNode operators?
It's a good question. I think, Antonio, do you want to take that? Is Antonio still with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear?
Yep.
It's not functioning properly. Anyway, so yeah, mainnet should be including the rewards for the EarthNode operators. I don't know if I got the sense of your question. Is that what you meant?
Yes, I was talking about the rewards being part of the mainnet towards the EarthNode operators.
Yeah. They should be. Of course, the EarthNode operators should be rewarded for their work. If not, it wouldn't be a mainnet.
Great answer to that one. Couple more just before we go. Gregory, one here for you. Are Aerostats insured? What if someone goes to blow up the tether? What can we say in terms of how we're going to secure our Aerostats, keep them safe?
Well, I mean, first of all, like any other capital asset in a business, yes, Aerostats are insured. You can't go to your local high street insurance company to insure them. There are only a handful of underwriters at Lloyd's, for example, who will handle aerostats, but we know who they are and how to reach them, and yes, they will be insured. Secondly, I did actually read that question. There was a question about the fact that there are terrorist organizations that might try and attack the infrastructure. That's true of any infrastructure, whether it's towers or aerostats. It's actually remarkably difficult to blow up an aerostat when it's flying. That's not a challenge for people to try, but coming from a background in defense, having worked with aerostats in war zones, I can tell you that they're not as easy as you might imagine to take out of the sky. And so actually that means that the insurance premium is reasonable, thankfully, because they are quite tough to bring down. Does that answer the question?
I think it does. Thank you so much.
Quite tough means they can be shot by hundreds of bullets without actually crashing down to Earth.
Yeah.
Thanks, gents.
Some things we can say, some things we can't say. I just said it, Gregory. Sorry.
Don't give ideas, Nikki.
Okay.
I don't want to be arrested next time I enter the UK for breaching the Official Secrets Act or something.
One last question for this evening, and James, this is one for you. Come in from someone on Twitter. What are your thoughts about SpaceX Starlink satellites beaming services straight to smartphones all over the world? This is something coming soon. So how will World Mobile compete?
I don't think it's coming soon. I mean, the earliest that we'll see them is probably 2 or 3 years' time, and they have relatively low capacity because they're coming from low Earth orbit. But they will be useful in the wilderness situation where you're in the absolute middle of nowhere and you need to get coverage for your cell phone. But what we've seen in the sort of demos and things to date is it's very low data rate and about 2 or 3 Zoom calls per satellite, which is just not the sort of capacity you need. If you're trying to connect the unconnected, you're trying to get people across the digital divide, right? So that they can now get an education on their cell phone, participate in the international world economy, all of these things. And that's not, this is a product for hikers in the middle of the Adirondacks, not crossing the digital divide. But I think it's very useful. And we will use it as one of the ways of backhauling. And we use their satellites for backhaul. I don't think they're great for going direct to Landsat.
Thanks, James. Would anybody else like to add to that Starlink question? We've had another question come through around Starlink. We answered the question before around their sort of future plans, James. Thank you for that. There was the video that we shared earlier this year around the campsite in Wales. Mickey, would you like to talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So that was a Starlink promo video where we showed us working in collaboration to connect the unconnected in a place where typically people thought there wasn't unconnected people, right? Middle-class people, good salaries, living in an area and a fully established world. So that was one case. And in Nigeria, we're waiting for Starlink to get their licenses. We'll be working there and also pushing out a couple more videos. And we have a very healthy relationship where we communicate quite often. I actually saw some of the Starlink team at MWC and I'm expecting to see them again in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, be clear that there are 2 Starlinks that are being discussed here. There's the current Starlink that goes to a squarial ground station. Use those to receive signal from space, retransmit it locally to cellular. Now, there's also those satellites that are currently up will not transmit a signal to your handset. So there's a plan for a new type of Starlink satellite to go up that unfolds a very large antenna, and that very large antenna could transmit directly to your handset. But that is a very large satellite. You actually have to wait for the rocket before they can even launch the first test unit. So I think we're several years away from the being even in test deployment.
I think the same is also for AST Space Mobile. I know right now that their dream is to get directly to a handset, but currently they're just offering a backhaul service, the same as OneWeb.
They put up a test unit. There's one test satellite that's gone up, so 1/4 size, because they need the large Starlink rocket to put up the full size one. So we're several years away from direct to handset units, and when they turn up, they will be fairly expensive to call and fairly low capacity, but great for the wilderness.
They serve their purpose in the connectivity ecosystem, right? And it's a great invention, fantastic. It's just extremely costly. No one's quite sure how they're going to recoup their costs as of yet. Most commonly used for airplane flights and for ground stations. And as James said, the SpaceX needs to build a much bigger rocket in order to be able to get the full-size version up there. So it's not something that we consider at all a threat, more of a compliment to what we're doing. And we can relay a lot of stuff to them from the air when we're at 2,000, 3,000 feet, 1,000 feet. Then it's much closer down into the ground to be able to spread their signal for them and vice versa. And of course, it's wonderful if we have to shoot our connectivity straight up and drop it across the other side of the earth for a light network.
Well, I think it's been a really good couple of hours. Thank you to everybody for being here and also for your patience while we navigated the Android problems at the beginning there. Guys, thank you all for being here. Does anybody have any closing thoughts or anything they'd like to share before we wrap up for this evening?
I would just like to say again, thank you very much, and looking forward to delivering for all of you and for everybody that doesn't have connectivity or is underserved. Feel free to always reach out across any of our social channels. We're always consistently trying to improve our communications. We're working really, really hard to make sure that we deliver this, and I bid you a good night and a great week.
Yeah, thank you, Josie. It was a great Twitter Spaces. Thank you to the rest of the marketing team who have done an incredible job putting this together and make our lives much easier in presenting it. And thanks to all the community. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody, and have a lovely evening. We'll see you all next month.